Good evening everyone, welcome to the Bendigo East Hall, headquarters of the Bendigo Amateur Radio and Electronics Club. Our presentation this evening is on M17, brought to us by Tony VK3IRL. We'll hand over to Tony in a moment. We apologise for the late start. We've had some technical issues due largely to the fact that our mixing desk fellow Craig, KLI, is at home with a lurgy at the moment, but through the magic of modern technology, he is actually operating the mixing desk remotely. So well done, Craig, and thank you for your continued efforts. Okay, so we're running a bit late, so I'll whip through the announcements fairly quickly. The Christmas dinner will be held here at the Bendigo East Hall from 5 p.m. on Saturday the 12th of December. Bookings are essential by the 5th of December. Please contact Heidi, VK3HID, to book. Partners and significant others are welcome. Everyone must be double vaxxed. We've had 2 sausage sizzles in October and November. These have netted BAREC a total of $1,700 in new funds, which are very welcome after all of our expenditure on infrastructure this year. BAREC is now on the short list for groups invited to fill gaps in the Bunnings sausage sizzle calendar. Try saying that one too fast. This means that we may be able to snag 3 or 4 events per year, netting approximately $3,000 in revenue. So we'll see how that goes. BAREC has received its charity certificate from the Australian Charities Commission. Well done to Graham, VK3GRK, for his efforts in bringing that about. Well done, Graham.
And Ian Gillard, of course.
Oh, and Ian Gillard, who's Paul's line escapes me. ZZG, thank you, you're right, okay. A proposal has been put to the committee to raffle a boat. And that sounds like a bit of a weird thing for a radio club to do. But Don Butler, our secretary, has some experience in doing this and has signalled his willingness to underwrite the project. So volunteers will be required to sell tickets, probably outside your local supermarket. So net revenue on this proposal should fall somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. That's quite a shot in the arm and worth pursuing. Details will follow, but we are looking at Easter for the draw. So in the early part of the new year. Our SIGS groups are officially underway. The CW group will have its 3rd session this Sunday. It is a lot of fun. Phil Rice, VK3BHR, is offering to lead a programming and coding group for anyone interested in Arduinos, Raspberry Pi and the like. That definitely sounds like fun, and thanks for stepping up for that one, Phil. So that might take a little while to get up and running, but we'll see how we go. Now Craig, who's off crook at the moment, but running this show unbelievably, is still looking for personnel to sit in on the AV desk for these presentations. Suggestion is possibly for a SIGS group to start up to make people more comfortable with the skills and develop a bit of confidence and overcome their shyness, but I'm sure that that'll be fun as well if it gets up and running. The acoustics in the hall, as you're probably aware, are a bit of an issue. Soundproofing or acoustic baffles have been under discussion since Motion Dance has left. These are potentially expensive, but another solution in the form of curtains and carpet is under consideration. A large quantity of used carpet is available to us, and this will be trialled at the Christmas dinner. Hopefully we will be able to hear ourselves think while we eat. And finally, Vic Jam, Jamboree in Victoria. It's a Scouts at Elmore, is on between the 30th of December and the 7th of January. Radio operators to talk to the Scouts are being sought. The frequencies will be announced, so watch out for the emails on that as well. Okay, so without any further ado, I'll hand over to Tony, VK3IRL, for a presentation on M17. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Hopefully the camera can see the PowerPoint as well in the background.
When you sit down, it will.
Okay, well, I'll sit down. How's that?
Much better.
Yeah, all right. What I'll be presenting here is M17, which just briefly is a new digital voice and data mode, and I'll talk about a few aspects of it, starting what is M17, a little bit of history, a few of the features, the development that's undergone so far, how to get involved in that development process, getting on the air via the internet and through gateways, as well as on actual RF. I'll then give a live demonstration of what M17 sounds like using an actual M17 transceiver setup, and I'll leave a few links on and take questions from the audience after that. So without any further ado, what is M17? From the M17 website, I'll quote, M17 is a new digital radio protocol in development as an alternative to those currently available, with freedom in mind. Freedom in the code, the protocol, voice codecs and hardware. The goal is to provide a better option for digital radios in the future. And previous VHF, UHF digital voice modes are mostly derived from commercial standards such as P25 or DMR, or they're proprietary like Fusion, or are mostly open source with proprietary components, which is D-Star. The vocoder in all of these modes is proprietary, either AMBE variant or IMBE from DVSI Incorporated. So that's where the landscape that M17 is entering into. So the features of it. First, it's 100% open source. So all the components, and that includes the voice code, the free software, free hardware, and the protocol specifications are available on the M17 website. It's built by a global team of amateurs from, I think, just about every populated continent. Certainly the Americas, Europe, including the UK now that they're on Brexit, and here in Australia have all had hands in it, and Asia as well. There are multiple modes. There's a voice mode, uses 3200 bit per second codec 2, and a mixed voice and data mode, as well, and data support. There's a short message system, which is very much like the D-Star short messages for those that use D-Star. Hang on, I've just gone ahead. File transfer is planned. GPS location reporting and integration with the APRSIS internet system. So you can basically drive around with your M17 radio and report your position just like a standard APRS station. Strong encryption is an option built into the protocol. Here in VK, that can be used for various telecommand of amateur stations and satellites. And emergency communication here is also allowed to use encryption, so that could be a very useful feature in the future. And operating on M17 reflectors is simplified compared to some other modes. Anyone who's worked on D-Star and gone to change reflector and the gateway said link to whatever it was already linked to. M17 implies an unlink command and then will link to your chosen destination, and that works really well. They're just some of the features. Okay, where did it come from? M17 was started in Warsaw, Poland by Wojtek, SP5WWP. The local club there were heavily into the existing digital voice modes. After experimenting with existing modes such as DMR, Wojtek decided to design his own mode, which is now known as M17. For the voice coding, codec 2 was chosen. That's written by David Rowe, VK3IRL, who's been working on it for well over a decade. It was chosen because it's open source, so anyone can implement Codec 2, and lower bitrate versions of Codec 2 are used in another well-known piece of software called FreeDV, which is the digital voice for HF. M17, you hear it, you think, oh, that sounds like an assault rifle or something. It's actually named after the street address of the SP5KAB Radio Club in Warsaw, and the street name is there. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it. Yeah, I'm not a Polish speaker. Over the past 3 years, since November 2018 when it started, a global team has contributed to M17 in hardware and software development, testing, publicity, including talks like this, and the maintenance of various pieces of infrastructure, both reflectors and also things like website and other infrastructure that's used to support the project. Development. M17 is currently under active development, and many parts of the ecosystem are currently available, as I'll detail below. At times, development can be very rapid, and for those of us that are following along, we get really used to downloading stuff off GitHub and make install and all those things that Linux people are familiar with doing. But anyway, these are the bits and pieces. Reflector. MREF-D is the standard reflector. It's available and it's widely deployed. There's quite a large number, in the dozens, of M17 reflectors, and each of those supports 26 modules, which you can think of as equivalent to channels, so that's a lot of capacity that's already out there. Repeaters and hotspots, MMDVM, for those who have Pi stars and the like, which is written by Jonathan Naylor, G4KLX, now fully supports M17 in the production code. We would expect Pi star support to come soon. There's certainly signs of it emerging in Pi star, but we're watching that closely till it's ready to go. If you want to access it directly from the internet, there's multiple implementations. There's a Linux client called mVoice. DroidStar, which is available for smartphones, both Android and Apple phones can run DroidStar. And there's another program called DudeStar, which also supports M17 among all the other modes. There's modems for radios. If you have a 9600 bit per second capable radio like this FT818 here, there's a number of modems that are now available that you can plug into that radio and transmit M17 over RF, and I will be doing just that in a bit. As for M17 radios that you can hold in your hand without other bits hanging off it, they don't exist yet. There is the OpenRTX project out of Italy, which is building firmware for the MD380, 380UV, the Retevis RT3s amongst the radios supported that will run M17. To use it requires some minor hardware modification, which is documented on the OpenRTX website. Transmit currently works, and a number of people have transmitted using an MD380 or similar. Receive is currently under development. And of course, software-defined radios by their nature can easily add M17 support. Currently, SDR++ has a very nice M17 decoder. OpenWebRX, which is a web server-based SDR supports M17. I have used that, it supports excellent also. RPI-TX, the little utility that allows you to transmit using nothing more than a Raspberry Pi and a bit of wire off a GPIO pin, actually will transmit M17. A number of people have done it. And of course GNU Radio, which is block diagrams that will support M17 for that software as well. So there's a bit of support out there. So if all sounds good and you want to get involved, there's quite a lot of places to get involved. As I said, currently there's a team around the globe working on M17 related projects. The main activity is based around the M17 Discord server, where we all congregate, we talk about developments. There's a number of channels, from the general chat channel and some off-topic channels through to one that's dedicated to actual developer discussions, testing and other development related stuff. So there's plenty of stuff on the Discord. And if you want to help out, there's software development, hardware development, such as radios of course, and other bits and pieces. Software hardware testing, which is one of the things I do. I've done a lot of testing for Jonathan, G4KLX, when he started working on, or as he was working on the M17 support, both client side and repeater hotspot. Publicity and communication, again giving presentations like this, talking it up on social media. That's something people can get involved in. There's a few working on 3D CAD and 3D printing. Steve Casey, 1AWV in the US, is one that does that sort of stuff. And operating on M17, which I do myself, occasionally by radio, although that's more for testing, and quite a lot by DroidStar. So I operate. I also help build infrastructure for people to get on M17. I've put the ANSL network, which is based around the HAM Echolink conference. They're now on M17 432 Hotel. And just today I linked up with the Freestar people out of the UK. Now they have an M17 reflector. I've linked my Module X up to their reflector, and I will be helping them to integrate M17 with the rest of their network. So that's another aspect that we can all help out with. So limited only by your imagination. It's a young project, it's very active, and there's a lot of places we can hang out and have some fun. So if you want to get on the air, first, the easiest way to get on is via the internet or via a gateway. So as I said, internet access is possible through multiple apps. mVoice for Linux, DudeStar it supports Windows, Linux and Mac, although I've had trouble finding it of late. And DroidStar, if you've got an Android phone, DroidStar is available from the Google Play Store. It's not generally available for Apple devices yet, but if you download the Test Flight app, you can install DroidStar from the Test Flight app, which is what I've done to get DroidStar on my iPhone here. If you run another mode, there are tools that allow that to be gated to M17, which I use to help direct traffic. USRP to M17 will link to AllStar and any other USRP capable software. DMR to M17 will link M17 to a DMR talk group, and the DV switch package, while it doesn't support M17, It does support USRP, so it can be linked in with USRP to M17, so anyone running DV switch can link that system to M17. However, you won't have control over where you link. You've sort of got to preset USRP to M17 to, say, your favourite reflector and module, and whenever you select M17, that's where you're going. Now the real fun, you want to put a radio on M17. You can do M17 RF now, it's available. Here in Bendigo, in central Victoria, for those that are overseas, we're at the leading edge of adoption. We actually have one fully licensed and operational local repeater just out of town, which is VK3IRL 70 centimetres on 438/850 with a -7 meg offset in Juniton out to the east of Bendigo. It's on air now, run by Wayne VK3WG, and M17 supports this. So I could take this radio here, take a little drive up a hill or a bit further towards Juniton, change the dial frequency on the 818 and happily talk through RCQ without a problem at all. With apologies for the colour change, the sunset and my screen's altered itself. MMDVM hotspots can be upgraded to support M17. You can either build one from scratch, which for many is actually an easier method. You can hack Pi-Star, but there's a few gotchas with that. I've done it. It does work, but you just got to be a little bit careful. And Pi-Star support is coming. As I said, parts of it have been seen in the wild. But full support should be coming soon. One of the tricky pieces is to support M17, the actual modem board like this one here, or hotspot like that one over there, needs a firmware upgrade, and they're not backwards compatible. M17 modems, Jonathan G4KLX has written M17 client, which runs on the same MMDVM modem boards that repeaters use. It comes with a GUI, which I'll be showing later, and an alternative, which is a really nice interface that I don't have, but Jonathan and others uses a next-gen touchscreen, and that looks really nice. The mobile-linked TNC3, which WX90 Rob develops, supports M17 with a firmware update that is available and a companion Android app. Like the M17 client, this also works with a 9600 capable radio. I have that set up in the car, although I find the TNC3 so useful on APRS analog that I haven't had much chance to play M17 with it yet. But I have done some tests and it does work. There's a number of partial solutions. SDR++, as I said before, is a nice receiver with an inbuilt M17 decoder, and OpenWeb RX can be built with optional M17 support. Both of those work extremely well. I have used both. RPi-TX, as I said before, supports transmit on API, often used by people for testing. And OpenRTX, which has transmit support currently, and the guys over there in Italy are working on the receive side. A lot of active development there. And another interesting one under development is Module 17 by DB9MAT. That's a self-contained microphone and modem for a 9600 bit per second capable radio, and I believe it will run OpenRTX as well, but I could be wrong on that. So that's how you get on the air with RF. So just as I've said how we can get on the air, I I will now give a live demonstration of M17. This is the details of the station, and I'll just go through it. The hotspot is this board here, this part, ignore that, that's for analog, but this part here is the hotspot. It's a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus with a duplex DVM hotspot from Winter's BI7 JTA in China, and that's running the latest firmware for that type of hotspot. On the support is DVM host, the same one that Pi-Star runs, but the newest version with the M17 gateway software, again by Jonathan G4KLX, and the internet connection for the hotspot is this 4G Telstra Wi-Fi router. On the radio side, I have an 818 in 9600 mode. This modem board is a repeater builder's version 4 DVM modem, commonly found in repeaters, and the Raspberry Pi is a 3B Plus, also, and that's running Jonathan's M17 client. The audio interface is just a generic USB sound device with headset and speakers are out through this amp, those speakers there. And the reflector is my reflector, M17 432, running MREF-D, module D. So that's the system, and we'll see if I can raise someone. So first thing I have to do is bring up the GUI, and I'll have to fly. Show you what it looks like. So we've got channel, that's which channel I use, and that, if I set the if I use a device that I can control the frequency.
VK3IRL, VK3WG.
And someone's come up. That's the destination, M17 432D, and of course that's the magic button. I'll just quickly respond to one, VK3WG. We'll try it again, VK3WG, VK3JD, live from the BAREC club rooms. I'll just give you a quick over because I've got some others to get through one.
No problem, Pat. I was just watching you via YouTube, via the BAREC channel, and saw you were at that stage. Just thought I'd give you a quick call on 432D. Okay, I'll leave you to talk to the guys, and good evening, everyone. Okay, 3WG.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, Wayne. And we have a little audience here, and I don't know how many on YouTube. I will try for Jonathan G4KLX. Are you out there, VK3JD?
So Tony, VK3JD from G4KLX, over.
Yeah, g'day Jonathan. Here at the BAREC club rooms in Bendigo, in the state of Victoria, Australia. And yeah, as I said before, using your M17 client software with the FT818. I know there was discussion this morning on Discord about confirming 817s and 818s. Well, you can confirm the 818 because I'm using it right now and receiving you loud and clear. Do you have anything else you wish to say to the audience? G4KLX, VK3JD.
From G4KLX. Well, yeah, just to say that I've been working with Tony since the D-Star days, probably about 10 or 11 years ago, and today, the first time I think we've actually spoken on air using M17. The setup here is not dissimilar to Tony's, although I'm not using a hotspot, I'm actually using discrete radios. I've got a pile of J2 mobile radios, only with the 9600 board port, and STM 300 for the client radio, shall I say. and SD7900 and STM100 was a repeat supply, or using my software, MMPVM. My modems are a ZUM modem and also a repeater builder modem. The client radio is running on the Raspberry Pi, and the repeater and gateway is running on an old laptop in front of me at the moment. So apart from that, it's very straightforward. So this is an M17 to M17 QSO. Not sure it's in the
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. And this is the first time I've done radio to radio as well. So it's a first for all of us here. I don't know if Wojtek managed to get on. I'll give him a quick try, but he was having LTE troubles over there in Poland, SP5WWP, VK3JD.
Hello everyone, to our Australia. This is Sierra Papa 5 Whiskey Papa for Victor 3 India Romeo Lima.
Yeah, he got you there. I think that was SP5 WWP. I'm sort of behind the speakers, so not in the best spot to hear it, but go ahead anyway. Okay, nothing heard. I guess we've still got some technical issues. I'll close down here and get back to the local people. This is VK3JD clear. So that's M17 in action, and as I said, first time I've done this. I didn't quite get that. QRZ, VK3JD.
Yeah, this is VK7HXT. Just watching your YouTube stream all the way from sunny Hobart down in Tasmania, and learning about this new digital mode. It sounds absolutely fantastic coming down the cabin, and we're coming in nice and clear indeed. VK3JEG, this is VK7 Hotel X-Ray Tango.
Yeah, VK7HXT, VK3JD. And thanks for coming up. Yeah, you're sounding really good over here. Yeah, not a problem. And as I said so quick today, I won't hold it, I'll move on. Yeah, thanks for coming up, VK7HXT, VK3JD. As you can see, it does work.
Yeah, no worries there. Yeah, loving the presentation and loving this new digital voice, digital mode, which is good. Alright, I'll leave you go, and again, thank you very much for putting on the presentation. K7HXT, please.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, 7-3, VK3J did clear also. See who else comes up. Alright, let's remove that. Okay, so for more information, and I can make these available on the club website or wherever. There's a link to the M17 project to find out all about that. A link to the Open RTX project for the MD380 firmware, and a link to the cross-mode tools if you've got a DB switch you want to add M17 to, that site could be useful. But it's all source code, so you'll have to build your own, which, as I said, we get really good at using GitHub in this project. And if you just want to find out what's going on and maybe work out where you want to get involved, join us on the M17 Discord, which the details are on the M17 website, because that's where all the discussion takes place. So with that, do we have any questions?
So Tony, so when the radios are available at some point, or even I guess through experimentation, what data does it transmit on push to talk? Like for example, your call sign, does it transmit your GPS location like through the
Yes, it can do call sign. It can do GPS location if you've got a GPS capable radio, just like the D-Star ones. Yeah, obviously destination and stuff like that. Yeah, the full details are in the spec, and I've probably missed bits and pieces, but yeah, call sign and GPS are definitely included in the data.
And the modes, like for example, like DMA, you have to download a huge database for all the users for all the information to be displayed. But I assume that in this case that wouldn't be necessary.
No, it's call signs.
Yeah.
So just like D-Star and Fusion,
yeah.
the call sign base, there's no database lookup required. The call sign is as I entered in the configuration for my client. So that's the way it works. As again, amateur design, so call signs we're known as, so we use that for the software, well, for the mode.
You said in the intro that there's encryption possible. How does that succeed with amateurs not being able, aren't allowed to use encryption or to?
Well, we actually are, but only in very specific circumstances. There's three circumstances. There's telecommand of an amateur satellite, telecommand of another amateur station on the ground, or emergency communication and training for emergency communication. So this is something that down the track, when there's suitable radios available, like Wyson could be interesting, because Wyson are very conscious of privacy. So this would be right up their alley.
So are the other digital modes capable of encryption as well, or is this something sort of specific to M17?
I know P25 and DMR can do encryption because they're commercial modes, and here I believe VicPol uses encryption on their P25 as an example, so they can do it.
Tony, so you believe that this could one day sort of replace what the police use, the P25 system?
Who knows where it goes? It may remain a niche mode, it may take over at least the amateur bands. We would like to see it take over because its openness is very compatible with the amateur ethos. Just like an old radio, you can pull M17 apart, tinker with it, change the code, add features, feed it back in so other people can use it. The sky's the limit, and as I said, even the codec's open source. If you wanted to run ridiculously low bitrate voice and larger data with, won't sound real good, but with a 700 bit per second codec, you could if you wanted to.
You're saying it's open source, is the entire tool chain open source?
Well, we're using stuff like GCC and all those sorts of things. But I'm not one of the principal developers, but yeah, I do believe there's a strong ethos, so I wouldn't be surprised.
No, fair enough.
We've got a confirmation from Craig that Wayne, Wayne said he was going through the repeater. Is that right? Yeah, okay, so you were going through the repeater successfully. There's also a question from 7HXT regarding are there any manufacturers looking at producing radios which are M17 specified?
Not at this time. We would love them to do it, but at this stage no manufacturers are doing it. That's probably going to be one of the hardest steps. So anyone that either knows someone that builds stuff or knows how to convince someone to build stuff would definitely be welcome. And
Sorry, me again. The gateways, how do you get around not having to use a licensed codec to transpose from one codec to the open codec?
to do that properly, you would actually use, there's several DVSI or sticks on the market, such as the Thumb DV. You can use a pair of them. So there's ways to do it.
Okay,
So that if you're running on a virtual server, it becomes a pain in the butt because you've got to route the audio from the virtual server to a location where you've got physical access, send it through the dongle and back out, which is what I do for D-Star.
Yeah.
I'm using one of the old from around 10 plus years ago, DV dongle, the blue ones. I don't know if anyone remembers them.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I've got that with Jonathan's dummy repeater software, doing the transcoding between M17 and D-Star, for example. So the audio goes from the user up to Sydney, back down here to Bendigo, through the dongle, back out to Sydney.
So it's basically a black box out of the proprietary into the M17.
And it's the only proprietary bit's the dongle bit, because the software is Jonathan's dummy repeater, which is also open source, but it's the dongle that does the transcoding.
Is that Warsaw? Is that Warsaw? Okay. We've just had confirmation from Craig again. We have stations monitoring this presentation from Chicago, Russia, and from Poland.
Yeah.
So, well done. I think you've broken the records.
Well, that shows the reach of our Discord server. I did put it up on Discord, so you can see the reach of the M17 Discord. I put up another Discord as well, so yes, it did go far and wide.
Okay. The quick question has been asked: what is the quality? What is the sound quality like compared to other digital modes?
I like it a bit to the difference between an Icom and a Kenwood. I've found in general the DVSI codecs are a bit sharper, just like your Icom, and the codec 2 of M17 can be a bit more mellow like the Kenwood. Just rough comparison. And interesting in transcoding, going from M17 to DMR or Fusion, you actually can't hear the difference in that direction. That's a transcode that works incredibly well. I was blown away when I heard it. All other transcodes, you do notice the extra stage and a little bit of lossiness, but yeah, M17 to an AMBE plus 2 mode is hard to tell from native AMBE plus 2.
We've got a message of congratulations and good work from Poland, and there's another station listening in from England, apparently.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. I'm getting all this information second hand. I'm sorry I can't be more specific.
Yeah, I know Craig's doing a great job
Craig's
as
doing
the
a great job,
global receptionist. I suspect that wasn't on the job description. Do you have any more questions, comments?
In relation to you mentioned that you can use the Raspberry Pi to transmit with the RPI-TX. Is that the most common method that you guys have been testing the transmission? And do you need to put a filter on the GPIO pin, or?
Yeah, good question. I would say no, it's more of a niche mode that some people use for testing, because it's basically an SDR approach. And yes, if you're going to put it into an antenna, you really do need that filter, because the RPI-TX, as you probably know, is dirty as. So yeah, put it through a filter if you're going to put it on an antenna. The most common method, I would say, are people running MD380s with Open RTX, or M17 client is also very common. They're probably the most common transmit approaches. Do we have any more questions? Comments?
We're trying to get onto YouTube to see the comments. Are there any more comments coming up, Craig? One more question. What was the software used to access the M17 on the laptop? And what was the second part? Maybe I'll hand you over to Tony.
Okay, go ahead, Craig. Yeah, okay, the question was what was the software used to access it? Well, what I was doing, I was actually running the M17 GUI, which is a part of M17 client, on the Raspberry Pi itself, but because I don't have a monitor hooked up to it, I was using a remote X server on the Windows machine. So the Windows was basically a glorified monitor, that's all it was doing. Using good old Unix style remote X session. So yeah, that's what I was doing. So no, you don't need extra bits. I could have hooked up a keyboard and a monitor and run M17 GUI on the without the laptop. Or if I had a touch screen, I could have built the touchscreen interface and run a touchscreen, which is what I believe Jonathan does. You got a project. So let's see, you build a M17 client and access RCQ. If we have a DV SIG, I'll see what I can do about taking part. So do we have any other questions? Oh yeah, no, VK3IRL from Mildura, g'day. Anything else? Yeah, VK3 and QS into Tura. Yeah, we've got out. Yeah, no, it sounds like we're about done. And I'll hand you back to Neil. So I think we're done.
Will we?
Comment from Don Butler, our secretary, who's watching it on YouTube, and said congratulations, well done.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Don.
No further questions or comments coming up? Oh, what's the main M17 group where people hang out?
If it's on Discord, or do you mean on M17 itself? Might need to clarify the question.
On M17 itself? Video, so.
Okay, well, we hang out on Discord for liaison and development. On M17 itself, there is a weekly net on M17-M17 Charlie, but there's a slight problem. It's on at 1700 UTC, so if you want to get up at 4 in the morning, go right ahead. As I've started a little joke, at that time I'm on reflector ZZZ Zulu, which you can work out what that means.
I think that sounds like it might be it.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for, I'll say again, thanks everyone for listening, and hopefully you found something useful and maybe a new project or two.
Thanks, Tony. That was absolutely fascinating, although I must confess that, like some others here, I didn't entirely follow it. But it certainly sounds like a system which has got a lot of promise, and we look forward to hearing more about it in the future.
Not bad for a 3-year-old amateur developed system. There's been no sort of huge corporate support or anything like that. It's a very grassroots type operation.
Is this the first of its type, would you say, that it's been completely developed by amateurs?
Well, D-Star was actually developed by the JARL in Japan, and as I said, its specifications are open. I don't know if it's still the case, but at one stage they had to be able to read technical Japanese to get the full spec. Some of it was translated, but for a long time at least the full spec was only available in Japanese. But it's there. D-Star's a product of its time, and Codec 2 was like more than 10 years after it was developed, so they had to go with the proprietary. I think it was a case of no other choice. Had the JARL had their go now, they would have had Codec 2 to choose from.
Does anyone have any comments before we wrap up for this evening? No? Ooh. Well, that seems to be all we have this evening for you. Thank you for joining us, for those of you on YouTube and on M17 this evening. 73s from the Bendigo Amateur Radio Club at the Bendigo East Hall. See you next time. I hope we're out. Very well spoken.
Used to when it's hard to get easy.
Come together. Consider it the last rush. They come together.
It did actually.